Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Sold and Layman Fortune. I've got very little I can say here. Like, there's no obvious connecting thread. I don't even remember either of these episodes premiering. I've got nothing. So I guess I'll just use this time to say thank you to everyone for being patient, as I know I basically took a break for the last 2 weeks. I simply needed it. And hey, I was finally able to watch season 15. I haven't written reviews yet, but I at least watched the episodes. And I guess this transitions nicely over to the general thank you I say to everyone for watching my videos. I appreciate y'all a whole bunch, seriously, and I just hit 4,000 subscribers, so that's fucking awesome. Probably won't be doing a subscriber special just because I don't have the time, but know that I've seen that and I am so happy about it. And so now, let's just get right into it. Okay, what is this now? Is this another fun little episode from season 9B? For me? Oh, this show is too kind. Sold is one of those episodes that decides to spend its time shaking things up, putting characters in situations that differ from their norm, changing a foundational aspect of the show for funsies. This is a type of episode that's become much more common post-sequel, and this is one of the big reasons why the post-sequel era has become known as one of experimentation. And so this time around, the big thing that's being shaken up here is SpongeBob's house. And Patrick's too, but that's a bit less important than the iconic pineapple. The way the plot for this episode is set up reminds me a lot of That's No Lady, because it is once again caused by Patrick being oblivious. Although I do think Patrick had a right to be frightened by the sailfish in that episode. This time, though, Patrick was fooled, for lack of a better term given the lack of intent, by an uncannily timed commercial that declares that his house has been sold. SpongeBob kindly offers for Patrick to move in with him, but when the commercial comes on SpongeBob's TV, now both of them believe their homes have been sold by Nick Fishkins, despite, the complete lack of paperwork and all that. Although, this whole situation does remind me of the way realtor companies have been stealing homes from black people in New York City. Yeah, you see what it's like to live in my brain. Don't worry, for once I'm not gonna hold the episode at fault for making me think of real world problems, but I was reading about deed theft a few weeks ago, so this brought it back. Seriously, read about deed theft. It's evil. Anyway, with SpongeBob and Patrick and Gary believing that they're homeless, they abandon their homes, and Squidward is the first person to take notice of their absence, because for once he wakes up without dread, but actually being happy. And hey, we got smilin' rainbows out of this too, so I love it. I also love the instrumental version of that track. This part of the episode makes me think about how we don't often get episodes particularly about the Conch Street trio being neighbors anymore, at least not the same way we did with episodes like Opposite Day or Naughty Nautical Neighbors or New Fish in Town. But maybe it's more that we've been on a long streak without these kinds of episodes rather than something that doesn't much happen anymore. Squidward happily walks over to the Krusty Krab, where he sees SpongeBob, Gary, and Patrick in their new home made out of trash. Well, that certainly looks a lot better than Squidward's trash house in Keep Bikini Bottom Beautiful. And it's here that Squidward points out the obvious flaws in SpongeBob and Patrick's logic, until he realizes that this is an opportunity. After all, SpongeBob and Patrick aren't his problems anymore if they think their homes have been sold, so he decides to further convince the two that they no longer have homes on Conch Street. This next little part of the episode, the Krusty Krab, is fine. SpongeBob comes to work stinking, considering he slept in the trash, and this reminds me of Missing Identity. Mr. Krabs then, of course, kindly decides to let SpongeBob stay in his garbage with the rental fee of his entire paycheck. SpongeBob's comment about not realizing being homeless is so expensive is funny, but also very, very true. Moving on, SpongeBob wants to visit his old house, which Squidward can't talk his way out of, and this is where the episode loses me. Specifically where Squidward is trying to trick SpongeBob and Patrick. Seeing Squidward put on this fake German accent and persona to get SpongeBob convinced that someone bought his home is not at all entertaining to me, I'm sorry to say. Same with him acting like a hippie with Patrick. Not really much else for me to say about this. I've never liked plots like this, with a character trying to fool others by pretending to be different people, so me not caring about this doesn't surprise me. One last thing I wanted to mention about this episode is that it has great art. I mean, first of all, there's all sorts of gorgeous backgrounds, which I love. And then also the general environmental design is great. I really liked the look of the trash house. One other thing I wanted to mention is that this episode is really similar to one that we'll be seeing in the future on real estate, to the point that I keep expecting the back half of that episode rather than the back half of this one. Sold was alright. It just didn't resonate with me for so much of it, and this was rather disappointing given the strong start to this episode. But when an episode relies on a trope I just don't care for, like this one does, it can be hard for it to claw its way out of that hole. And so that is why this episode is being put in my okay tier, where it comes in with a score of a 6.9 out of 10. Up next, we've got Lame and Fortune. This is an episode of this season that I've seen relatively few times, at least compared to other episodes of Season 9 and 9B specifically. I'm not really sure why this is, probably just something to do with the timing of it all, with Season 9B being the time where I started moving away from watching episode premieres, even though I did catch a lot of them, and even reruns. But also, maybe Nickelodeon just didn't air this one a ton, I don't know. I definitely don't watch much on-air TV these days, so I couldn't tell you what their airing habits are. I like the beginning of this episode, particularly from an artistic perspective. I like how this live-action portion of the episode is animated, almost like stop motion in a way. This is generally how live action is done in SpongeBob SquarePants these days, and I really like it. It's so stylistic. Also, I like Salty Squid Jig, the title card music for this episode. But then I also like when the world of SpongeBob SquarePants intersects with the human world, like when a plot is spurred on by some sort of human force acting on the underwater world. In this case, it's a huge shipment of fortune cookies accidentally falling to the sea floor, and it's really fun to see these characters interact with objects they normally never would, objects that we, as viewers, find familiar. There was probably a much more succinct way I could have said all of this, but for whatever reason it's not coming to me, so wordy explanation it is. After the little beginning setup, Lame and Fortune opens with SpongeBob and Gary chilling in their backyard watching clouds. This is cute, and y'all know I love seeing SpongeBob and Gary hanging out and being buddies, so of course I love this opening. While watching clouds, the box of what is soon revealed to be fortune cookies falls right on SpongeBob, since Gary is smart enough to get the hell out of Dodge. I love how this episode just completely ignores the fact that SpongeBob and Co. are supposed to be much smaller than regular humans. I mean, those fortune cookies should be much larger, but that wouldn't serve the episode, so I'll just say it's because of pressure and call it a day. Yes, that's not how that works, but I don't care. Since SpongeBob has been blessed with this fortune, pun kind of intended, he wants to hand out these cookies at the Krusty Krab, which Mr. Krabs at first says no to because he refuses to hand out anything for free. I like that this episode is about fortune cookies, it's just so random, and the way all the fortunes come true is amusing. Sure, it's not a new concept, but we don't always need new. Sometimes we need tried and true. This episode is pretty simple, as fortune cookies that come true is the extent of this plot, or most of the extent anyway. While Mr. Krabs refuses to give out the fortune cookies for free, he doesn't hesitate to make them a business opportunity, meaning offering them for payment after reeling everyone in with a free fortune cookie. And the fun in this part of the episode comes from the fun and random ways these fortunes come true, and how oddly specific these fortunes are. Also, who is this random incidental and why are they acting like he's Fred? That took me right out of the episode. But glad to see that the guy got out of jury duty. But anyway, no Krusty Krab business plot episode can be complete without some conflict, and who better to bring that conflict in this episode than Plankton? After a funny scene between Plankton and Karen, which actually manages to make a dead marriage joke funny for once, Plankton devises a scheme to run Krabs out of business, as per usual. Plankton's idea in this case is actually not bad, and it reminds me a lot of Squidward's methods in Naughty Nautical Neighbors, except of course on a much larger scale. I like this little bit where Mr. Krabs schools Squidward in running a cash register. I don't know why, I just really liked it. Maybe something about the boss actually knowing what they're doing is cathartic somehow. Anyway, so Plankton makes all sorts of fake misfortunes to make people hate the Krusty Krab and love the Chum Bucket, because this is one of the many episodes where Bikini Bottomites are gullible as hell and have the memory of, well, a goldfish. Plankton again then gives Mr. Krabs a fortune that says that if he doesn't give Plankton the secret formula, he'll die. Well, so much for never say die in kids shows, huh? Either way, I love the drama, and I love Mr. Krabs' imagined funeral. It's hilarious, and don't think I didn't spot those Easter eggs from Grandpappy the Pirate and Cracked Crabs. Man, I love when this show does Easter eggs and little background details. Take a shot every time I say something similar to that. You're gonna die of alcohol poisoning. Even if you take shots of water, you won't be safe because you're gonna be drinking unsafe amounts of water doing that. Even better about this funeral is that it basically totally confirms the quasi father son relationship between Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. I mean, SpongeBob being the one to cry the most at the funeral, and then just a second later with SpongeBob saying your life is worth more than some scrap of paper in a bottle. Just walk with me. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob head to the chum bucket to deliver the formula to Plankton, and I love this sequence of SpongeBob and Plankton traversing the crowd like they're a treacherous ocean. Very fun. And then Plankton becomes the Nickelodeon logo, and then he confesses that he made up all of those fortunes, which sends everyone right back to the Krusty Krab and the formula right back in Mr. Krabs' hands. Nice. Love when Plankton's short-sightedness and hot temper get the best of him. Lame and Fortune was a really good episode that I had a lot of fun with. And it had so much of what I enjoyed from a SpongeBob episode, and there weren't really any downsides here, at least none that I can see. And so this episode is going to be put in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.2 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. It's good to be back at it. I know I wasn't on break for that long, but hey, a couple of weeks can feel like a long time. But yeah, like I said in the announcement, I just had some personal projects I wanted to get back on doing. Like I was doing a lot of reading, and I've been getting back into my piano, and a couple of other things like that. I'll still be doing all of those, but I needed to not do reviews for a week to see how I could fit those things into the schedule, you know? And most excitingly, I did finally watch season 15 of this show. I wrote down notes for all of the episodes, but who knows when I'll actually get around to writing the reviews of them. That's going to be more difficult. But hopefully it won't take me an entire year like season 14 did. That was a bit ridiculous. Maybe I'll do a throwback and challenge myself to do it all in a month like I did with my original batch of season 1 through season 13 reviews. Maybe that'll be a fun challenge for May. I don't know. I've got a lot of shit coming down the pipeline, like the fun journey of paying back my student loans I'm about to embark on. So that'll be something. Can this current world end faster, please? Anyway, that's enough yapping out of me, and so I'm gonna go ahead and leave things off here, and I'll see y'all in the next review.